Good morning. It is Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. Back here for another daily shakeup. And this is kind of a bonus one. I already had done one for today. But when things come to you, they come to you and they are synchronistic and you can't make this up. So last night I was attending a book launch for a book called Breaking the Silence, Volume 3. Michelle Jewsbury's concept. It's the third one in this series, which will keep going. My friend Beverly Hatfield was one of the authors in it, and this is people sharing their stories of survival, whatever that trauma was in their life. Now, I want you to just give the front end of this. Yesterday, I put out a email newsletter as well as a social media post about my upcoming Awaken Your Sovereign retreat for men in Tampa. That's November 13th through the 16th. So I put that out, and the headline and subject line was Stop Suffering in Silence. Stop Suffering in Silence. And it talked about the ways that men don't acknowledge that they're struggling, they don't raise their hand and ask for help, and literally don't raise their hand. And so I'm sitting at this event last night, and there were 14 of, I think, 20 or maybe 21 authors that are in the book that were present last night at the book launch. Of the stories in the book, I believe two of them are men, and one of those men were there last night. And so Michelle was inviting the man up to tell his story, a little bit of it. His name, I believe, is Chuck Day. And as he's coming up, or I think as he is wrapped up, Michelle says to the group, and see, this is just demonstrates that here's what she said, we all go through things, including men. And she said to the audience, how many of you men have gone through things in your life? Now, that's a pretty general question, right? So you would say, well, that's pretty much everybody's gone through something. I counted it. There were 15 men in the room. One person raised their hand. Yeah, that was me. And I looked around the room and I commented to Michelle later, wow, proof of what I wrote yesterday that men suffer in silence. They're afraid to raise their hand. Now, you could say, well, they didn't understand the question. Really? Or they were caught off guard, or it was in public. But that's the point, see? All she was asking is, have you gone through something? Not what it was. Have you gone through something? And the people in this book, the authors in this book, their stories, some of them are about loss of life. Some of them are about sexual abuse, some about domestic violence. There's all sorts of things they've gone through. We've all gone through things, but only one of 15 men in the room was willing to raise their hand, and that was me. Folks, there's something wrong, and it's time to change. I created this retreat, Awaken Your King, to give men a safe place to share, to come and just be honest, maybe for the first time in their lives, and to explore what's going on in their life and what's they're struggling with and what they'd like to have better in their life, to empower them in their lives, to be able, instead of saying, is this all there is to life? Say, wow, this is amazing. My life is so rich and joyful and experiential. This retreat was created. Someone asked me recently, who's the best attendee? And I said, some man who's killing it in business while they're killing themselves on the inside. I saw this played out last night, this suffering in silence. And I'm not going to stay silent anymore. And I'm going to keep inviting men. And I hope we can all start to shift our perspectives because we all help create this. We can blame culture, but guess what? We are the culture. We are the culture that have told men it's unsafe to raise your hand. It's unsafe to acknowledge that you need help, that you're struggling, that somehow that means you're weak or less of a man or bottom of the hole. You're not a man. We are that culture. So yes, I'm going to keep creating opportunities for men to just be vulnerable and do their own work to grow in themselves and enhance their lives, enrich their lives. I'm going to keep doing that. That's my mission on this planet. And we can all be a part of changing this dynamic where men feel afraid to raise their hand. So let's all work together to provide men an opening so they can live their richest lives and not hide in the shadows. That's it for today. Love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts. Love to have a like, a comment, even better, share it with your community. Let's spread the word, especially around, let's shift our culture so men feel safer. They're not going to feel safe overnight, but safer to raise their hand and say, I'm struggling. I could use some help. Let me tell you my story.